Good morning, Dr. Vaidhyasubramaniam. Good morning, Mr. Mala. I welcome both of you to this Sky Campus Season 3 session. Dr. S. Vaidhyasubramaniam. Dr. Vaidhi.
Thank you, Dr. Anbuthambi and Mr. Bala for agreeing to be one of the co-speakers for this session. And a very good morning to a very diverse and learned audience that only organizations like the ICT Academy will be able to gather despite this lockdown. And I am extremely elated to see over 3,000 of you joining this session. So I've been given 20 minutes, and in this 20 minutes, what I plan to do is to talk about a topic that's already been given. The future is here. Just want to check whether my PowerPoint is up on the screen because I don't see the PowerPoint in front of the panel that I have.
I will do it right now.
Yeah. So the topic that is assigned for the panel is the future is here now. Now the topic clearly indicates that we are going to start celebrating about the way in which various dimensions of education, and in particular higher education, is going to move forward so that the challenges that we will be confronting because of the present tough times that we are in, and in addition to the existing challenges, define the broad contours of the future of higher education in particular. I'll just begin with some of my favorite quotes that I found very relevant during this time of the COVID. If you look at the advisory that the government, various state governments have also issued, one thing that was very shocking, but then the acceptable fact considering the tough situation we are here today, schools and colleges are considered non-essential services during COVID times. So that's a very brutal reality. The second thing is, if you look back our school education, and even now you find even in some of the college education notice boards saying no mobile phone in class. Post-COVIDian, the situation is going to change. The class is inside the mobile phone. So that's how the education system is going to change. And come a time where you will feel that it is okay, even if the student doesn't follow the teacher inside the class, as long as the student follows the teacher on Twitter, that should be an acceptable scenario. Now, with these things that I really enjoyed reading on various social media platforms, let me just begin this presentation by giving you the past and then the learning from what we see in the present circumstances before I wrap up the presentation on the future and why I think that the future is a good blend of the past and the present, not just disconnecting the past and present to define a completely new future. Most of you here are academics, and all of you will agree to this slide, the next slide, the pre-COVIDian academia. Now, all of us have been a part of this system that you see in the slide today. The centerpiece of our activity day in and day out has been the classroom with its whiteboards, and we have our own attendance. We have an academic calendar that we have to adhere to. Thanks to certain multimedia interventions, some of us use the LCD projector, some of us use content from the World Wide Web, and of course we have not dispensed off with the library reading. And within the available framework, within the available resources, some faculty have also formed WhatsApp groups. Some of them have posted your PowerPoints in an LMS, and still continue to do the classroom exercise with basic IT facilities. Now, that's predominantly the way in which teaching learning has been happening, and I'm sure is happening in most of the institutions world over. But now, what has happened in the last 2 months, the next slide, we will see that the COVIDian academia has undergone a momentary transformation. I'm very cautiously using the word momentary transformation is just to make sure that all of you don't get this message that this transformation has to be permanent. And I will make my statement good in my concluding slide because I feel that this is a momentary transformation that is going to extract the best in all of us and pick the best of learning experiences that all of us would be gathering. And by being a faculty myself, the first thing that I told is that I've got to be a student myself under these circumstances to learn what's happening outside and to put in place some of the best practices to see how we can redefine the future as we move forward. Now, the same classroom pre-COVIDian, if you look at it at this point of time, everything almost remains the same except the blackboard has disappeared, the classroom has disappeared, and so is your LCD projector. Now, all these three have disappeared from the current teaching learning ecosystem that most of you are getting yourselves involved, which means that you're still able to maintain a teacher student connect. And inside the classroom, it was still single point to many students inside the classroom. But what's happened post February, March, as we move forward, at least till the end of May, it looks like the single point teacher to a multi point student inside the classroom has just broken the boundaries and entered into the digital space, where some of the institutions are successfully handling this issue. Some of them have just placed their baby steps forward and still facing challenges. Some of them really having no clue how they can confront this situation and just hoping that somehow by June first week things are back to normal. But then I also join your prayers in ensuring that things are back to normal. But the way in which the thinking paradigm has shifted and the way in which health advisory is being issued saying that despite opening up of campuses there is going to be social distancing, there is going to be an aggressive use of a digital ecosystem inside the campuses, the time has come to use this as an opportunity to see how best we are prepared, to use this as a self exploration exercise to understand how we are prepared to face a situation of this scale, and from our preparation level what changes we can make so that when we move forward we have a winning formula that satisfies the majority of the stakeholders involved in higher education. The next slide. So as I told you, there is going to be a complete change as we get into campuses after all this lockdown is going to be shifted. And I just picked this from one of my famous Glassbergen cartoons. It is always intriguing and always an interesting question that everybody keeps asking. Why schooling or colleges takes 15 or 4 years to install education? It is because learning involves a lot of processes, and that's why a learning cycle management has a duration of 15 years at school and 4 years of your undergraduate degree. Doesn't mean that the institutional software of learning is outdated, that it takes 15 years or 4 years for college to install education is a question that everybody is asking, which means they are expecting an answer which says, come on, give me a faster version of the institutional software. We should not confuse acceleration of processes with the time tested process of gaining knowledge in sequential formats. So that is why always there is a debate between brick and mortar institution versus bits and bytes institution, which means institutions that encourage physical learning presence of faculty and students in physical format inside classrooms versus an online education where the learning happens but then in a completely different way. So this is definitely going to be a question that's going to be more and more relevant as we move forward. Now, if this is the situation that we are going to put ourselves as we get back to campus, then what are the questions that lie before us? The next slide. The questions that are before us are two-dimensional. One that are very short-term, and the second that's long-term. For academics and teachers like us, the biggest question is what's going to happen to the current academic year, and how are we going to plan for the next academic year and moving forward. Most of you would have read the committee's report of UGC on the academic calendar that got released yesterday, and still the UGC is yet to come out with its final action plan. But from what we saw from the committee, there is definitely going to be a lot of turbulence in the academic calendar. The good news is that it has left to the best judgment and discretion of the individual universities to use this as a guideline and work out strategies on their own. It is not that it is mandated that all universities and institutions have to follow that, but then that's just a guidance that we have to use and use our best judgment in taking our final decisions. Now, when we are put in that situation as to taking the final decisions, what are the questions in addition to the academic cycle that we have? The present graduating batch that has to come out with their higher degrees, they have other academic pursuits to go for higher education, they have offer letters with them, companies wanting them to join, or they would have expected them to join by the month of June. So is there going to be a deferred joining for these graduates? And the way in which the workplace skills is going to change, looking at the media, whether there is going to be a lot of economic activity post this lockdown, not only in terms of opening up existing businesses, but also new businesses coming from different geographies into India. Is that going to change the workplace skills, especially in manufacturing and services? These are questions that are immediately confronting us in terms of the graduating batches. The third thing is we have never seen a situation like this where there has been such a long break in learning itself. This is a situation that the current generation of millennials are facing. And moving forward, how are we going to put in place a socially distanced campus? Many of you have hostels, many of you have classrooms that are designed for 60 students. How are we going to maintain this new terminology of social distancing as we open up campuses? Should we accept learning disconnect is the single largest question that many of us have, for which the clear, simple answer is no, we cannot accept a learning disconnect because learning has to be a continuous process. If that has to be a continuous process, how is that institutions can make a difference? Now, that's where the challenge becomes a little more complicated because every institution is unique in their own way. They have different resources, they have different type of faculty, they have different type of student community that they cater to. So we have to just ensure that we make a difference because we would be able to do this not only because we have resources, but also a stakeholder system that is able to absorb these new challenges in a way not completely disconnecting them from the teaching learning ecosystem. So the challenges are how to prepare a lecture content to ensure that there is a learning continuum, how to create it, who will create it, and what type of faculty will be involved in creating this. Then once the content is created, how are we going to deliver it to make sure that it reaches all learners? And then once it reaches, how are we going to engage with the students who are away from the conventional classroom? And once we begin that engagement process, how are we going to collect feedback on the teaching learning mechanism and how are we going to assess their learning outcomes? These are the four broad challenges that institutions are facing today. And I'm just going to quickly give you a quick snapshot of what we at SASTRA did to overcome this challenge for this momentary transformation that we are undergoing. we started our preparation for this uh, because we knew that the future of education has to necessarily get into the phygital mode, and I'll explain what phygital mode in the concluding slide. So in fact, the teaching learning mechanism, as Dr. Anbuthambi was mentioning, we already were in a digital ecosystem. So we were part of Google Classroom, and all the students and faculty were connected, and we had our own online classroom sessions. We created the content using various tools that are available like Cam Studio or Active Presenter, and then made sure that our teaching content durations are not the typical 50 minutes or 1 hour video durations, cut them into not more than 15-minute video, and then each of them backed with relevant study material in terms of PowerPoint and other reading material. So every classroom session, the content of which was prepared in the online mode was ready. And then we chose again a Google Classroom platform to reach out to the students. And since first years were onboarded, there was a delay in bringing them into Google Classroom. We used the TCS Ion digital learning as a community to engage with the first years. And the online session timetable was prepared. In fact, on 23rd March, we released our online classroom timetable for the students who went back home to ensure that the teacher-student engagement process starts. The interactions happened using Google Hangout or any other applications, where a lead faculty who delivered the course was supported by the facilitating faculty who would interact during the classroom sessions, answering doubts and questions. And then later, as I talk to you, we are also conducting our online assessments, which means the online assessment is also happening because we didn't want to actually give a long break after the learning process. We wanted to test their learning, and we started the online process, and it's happening throughout this week. So in essence, what we managed to do in the last 1 month is to put in place a virtual classroom that's typical of the conventional classroom, except that it's done online. You had a timetable for that. We had constant teacher engagement modules, and we collected feedback from students and ran our assessments. So this is precisely what we did. We were able to do for almost all the programs, 30 plus programs covering over 15,000 students. And it's a huge task to offer 600 courses online this way. But one message was very clear, that the digital divide that many of us have been talking has now been fully put into action to make sure that this digital divide is uniting a lot of learners into the community. And that's been a lot of learning experience for faculty as well as students, who are now coming back with better versions of how we can take this virtual class as we move forward. So this is the learning experience that we have got, and I can share this over longer lectures. But given the paucity of time, the next 5 minutes, I'm just going to tell you what we have to do, because the topic is the future is here. And what is the future? From here, where are institutions going to move? I would like to just caution you with one strong message, that everybody has been talking about online education, online education. But the fact of the matter is that it cannot be a one-size-fits-all model at all. We are at the crossroads of higher education, and not because of COVID. COVID is just one additional reason, but a very monstrous reason. But every institution at any point of time, they are at the crossroads of taking a decision as to what type of an institution they want to be. And it is only once they are very clear on what type of an institution they are and they want to be, such decisions of online versus traditional can be taken. Now, under these circumstances, since different institutions have different directional pathways, the best model would be the mixed mode. And then there is no longer a kind of an identity disconnect between a teacher and a student. Should our teaching learning be teacher centric or student centric? That terminology is completely gone. It has to be learner centric. The reason I'm using the word learner centric is because a teacher is also a learner, a student is a learner. A student can be a teacher can be a student. So it has to be a learner centric. The third thing is very clear, that the learning ecosystem is moving digital, and that aligns well with the mixed mode approach as we move forward. because digital requires a very good combination of physical assets as well as digital assets, be it from your admissions, which can move over to online proctored exams, online admissions, counseling, payment of tuition fee, so that you don't have to come for counseling. And many institutions have moved in that direction. So the entire admission process becomes online, onboarding students becomes online, and then the classroom engagement is also becoming online in the sense that the entire administration as well as the classroom timetable management, everything runs on an ERP. But these are all software issues. The biggest challenge is how to make sure that the engagement is actually creating a physical separation from the student and teacher, but connecting the student and the teacher on a digital ecosystem. And this requires a careful blend between the conventional type as well as the digital type, because it has challenges not only in preparation of content, as I told you before. Assessment is becoming a challenge. How can we run assessments when we have so many issues of malpractice? So if somebody can openly say, come and say that, I did take the answer script of my friend, then he also will say that's because your internet security policy is weak. You better check the institution's internet security policy. So we have to be a little smarter. We have to outsmart the students, because today we cannot simply say, you have to do this, you have to do this, and then get into the online mode, because the getting into the online mode means that we have to prepare ourselves to the type of challenges that we get, not only in terms of the infrastructure challenge, but also the type of intelligentsia, the type of students that we are encountering. Because tomorrow, nobody knows, the word plagiarism can be glorified and called as prepackaged originality. Now, what response mechanism can we have for this in this online world? When you ask somebody to take an exam, then the student would say, yes, I did it all by myself. I did the report myself. I found it on eBay myself. I bid it myself. I paid it for myself. I printed it myself. And here is the answer for the exam. So the moment you go online, these are issues that will definitely be confronting you. But please have in mind that there is no escaping of this. We have to accept the reality, because as we move forward, the education system gets agile. We have to be fast. We have to be faster than the student themselves. We have to be faster than the problems that we will be encountering. So in conclusion, we feel and we understand that the winds of change are blowing very, very hard. The best of the institutions will build windmills and harness the best out of this change, while the rest will only sleep under shelters. So institutions should decide whether they want to be the best or just be one among the rest. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.